Uh, okay, so for today's session, what we'll do is we'll learn about TypeScript and then we'll create a simple class in TypeScript and then move ahead and work with components. But before I start today's session, there is something from yesterday's session that I want to cover. And that is essentially, I want to integrate Bootstrap, which is a styling template. And whenever we build a real world application, we need to work with styles. So here I will be showing you Bootstrap, but this can be other style sheet templates, say AdminLT or Metro uh, Metro templates. So in order to start integrating it, what I'll do is I'll go to Node Package Manager from my console and I'll type npm install bootstrap and I'll pick the next available version. Now what this will do is Node Package Manager will go out and look for the bootstrap template uh, and install it in our application. Okay, so here you can see that two packages has been added. So Node Package Manager is installed. And when we use npm to install packages, what it actually does is it goes ahead to the package.json file that I showed you yesterday. And here you can see that Bootstrap version 5.0.0 beta has been installed. And if I go and for all these packages, Node Package Manager, it creates a folder for us where it stores all our dependencies. So here we can go ahead and see that Bootstrap folder should now be available. Here we have Bootstrap folder now available. So now we have installed Bootstrap in our Angular application, but we need to go ahead and integrate. So we need Angular to know where to find the style sheet and the JavaScript files. This we do in our angular.json file. Again, angular.json is a workspace configuration file, which Angular looks to find some information and to find where our files here. So if you can see here, uh, it can file the index.html, which is this index.html inside source folder. Similarly, it looks for main.ts, which is inside our source folder. And similarly, it looks for assets. So if we have any custom images that we want to use in our application and we want to deploy it, then we can store our images and all in our asset folder. And this is how Angular will know to go and look ahead inside our asset folder. But for our purposes, this styles. So you can see here it's already looking for style.css, which is this file. So it knows that any style, any CSS we put here, it knows how to interpret and work with in our application. So because we have just installed Bootstrap and we want our application to work with Bootstrap, I'll go ahead and give it the path of our Bootstrap CSS. Again, this is an array, so I need to put a comma separator, and then now Angular should be able to find the Bootstrap CSS. However, Bootstrap also gives us with some JavaScript files, work with styling. So we will go ahead inside the script and we'll add it here. So this part, I really wanted to show you because this is the part where I struggled when working with styling and integrating third-party templates and all.
How did you
Uh,
know the excuse me, how did you know the path? Is it always
this
going to be that? I mean, is there a way that you can actually check and find that out?
Yeah, we can check and find it out. A nice question, by the way. So inside node module folder, if I go to Bootstrap, uh, so here you can see I have
Okay, I see
this,
that.
yeah, CSS file. So uh, here I'm just integrating Bootstrap, and there are lots of. This is where, as a developer, when we integrate third parties, even simple components which comes with CSS, we have to go and integrate it here. So you may, in the internet, you may find some suggestion to go ahead and integrate CDN and all. So, Bootstrap also comes in a CDN format where we integrate. So they will say, go ahead and integrate it here in index, call the CDN from here. So lots of time you will fall into problems. So the right way to integrate styling in Angular is to go in Angular JSON and put it here. So this is how Angular knows that, okay, we are using this scripts and CSS. So just to show you, in my previous page, I had this button click. So I will add a bootstrap class that is btn dot. I don't remember the style names properly. And surf.
I have a question
Yep.
npm installs.
Yep.
So when you do npm install, yesterday you showed like there is a G flag which installs globally, but if you are installing without G, it's putting the dependency in the project, right? But if you're doing globally, where does it keep?
Excuse me. I didn't hear you.
If you're installing globally, where
Mhm.
does npm get installed in your laptop or in desktop? Yeah.
Hmm. I believe it goes and install in program.cs. Basically, npm, where we install npm, there it should do. But I'm not sure where it actually
Okay.
goes and put the data. It should be
Okay. And
packages. Yep.
and also, Mhm.
Yep.
So it's under C packages.
So, are you interested in the NPM application itself, or what NPM is installing?
Where npm is installing when you use the G flag? That's my question.
Right. So, suppose I say NPM minus G and give some library name that I wanted to install. So, your question is, where does that
Mhm.
library or external, module gets installed? That's your
Depend.
question.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
because
Yeah. 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 Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
No. No. You go ahead. What's your question? Like.
Okay, because if previously, like you're showing like Bootstrap, you can go to node modules and figure out where exactly the path of that, right? But if you're installing
So.
globally, how do you figure out?
So let me give you the basic difference. Here, when we are saying I'm going ahead and installing npm install, and I am installing Bootstrap, right? So here
Yes.
inside the folder, I'm working on my application level. Whenever I do npm install minus G, at that time I'm sure that I'm installing some tools that I'll work with on my machine level. Okay. So like the
Mm-hmm.
Angular CLI. Angular CLI is a tool, right?
Yes.
Angular CLI is a tool, and when I said that I install npm install, like for example, I install .NET framework on my machine, and I want it to be available throughout my machine. So I believe it goes inside the node folder that node creates when we install the application. Let me just find out. No, let's find out. In Linux it stores under the lib in the local lib folder inside node, and I believe it will be same for Windows as well. So it will create a folder
Oh,
where it will install all the global packages here inside the node
okay.
installation folder in Windows, and I believe that should be inside our program files. Okay.
So if you install something globally, and if you need to refer style sheet from that global
No,
library, how would
we don't install we
you
don't
do that?
install we don't install non tools globally. We will only install to
Okay,
whenever you go ahead and check the package, you will obviously know that okay, it's a tool, right?
okay,
So
okay.
and
Got
you
it.
need the tool for multiple projects. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So so to just show that now my button is accepting Bootstrap CSS. And yeah, one more thing. Yesterday, I don't know, somebody asked that if we could remove the version from here that Angular adds. So the version can be removed. All you need to do is inside app component, you need to find that element and remove the attribute. Okay. So
Question, where is
okay.
the file apps.ts, app.service.ts?
Oh, we haven't created it yet. We'll create
Okay.
apps.
Is there a shortcut to open a file, just like in Eclipse Control Shift R?
I was looking for the same thing right now, actually.
Yeah, there is. I believe it's Control P in Visual Studio Code.
Control P. Thank you.
Okay, so let me start with TypeScript. Okay, so TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript, which essentially means that TypeScript sits on top of JavaScript as a language, and we interpolate TypeScript before we deploy it to our client. That is, we do it on the during the build, and TypeScript is interpolated into JavaScript. So TypeScript does not compile into a native browser code, or in case when we are using Node into our machine code, it always transpiles into JavaScript. And Angular, yes, I have shown you, supports TypeScript as a first class citizen, and even all the libraries that Angular builds, most of it they are using TypeScript to build those libraries. And TypeScript is a strongly typed language, so it supports data types. And TypeScript brings the object oriented paradigm to our front end development. And start with the features of TypeScript. TypeScript supports class. So here what I will do is I'll build a basic TypeScript class. For now, I'll create a folder here, and I'll just name it home. And inside it, I'll just create a TypeScript file, that is, I'll name it as home.ts. And to show you, this is what a basic TypeScript class holds. It holds the class keyword, the name, and a constructor. Okay, so now moving forward, the proper TypeScript supports properties. So I can declare a property in TypeScript in such. I can assign it an accessor, give the name of the property, and define the data type. Here I am using string. And the data types that TypeScript supports are, by default, it supports string, number, boolean. So all the basic data types that you expect in a strongly typed language, TypeScript supports them. And to go forward, and TypeScript also supports methods. So that means I can create a method using TypeScript. So here you can see I have an accessor, my method name, and a string as the return data type. So we define the return data type after a colon for method. So here I can say hi, and this should work. Then we can also define and declare private methods here. So we would the methods that we want to work internally, and to access any method or properties, we use the this keyword. Okay. So this was the very basic stuff of TypeScript. The TypeScript supports, it supports properties, it supports methods, it supports accessors. So another important object-oriented concept that TypeScript support is the concept of interfaces. So we can declare interfaces in TypeScript. I'll just create a basic interface type. Let me name it iEmployee and TS. So just to show you the TypeScript supports interfaces where we can define contracts. Here I have the iEmployee interface, and I'll come to this export class soon. And here I am just saying that I have one method that iEmployee will support, and that method name is get name, and it will return the string data type. So in TypeScript class, to implement interfaces, all we need to do is we use the implements keyword and the interface name. As soon as I put the interface name here, it went ahead and import here. And this is what the export keyword does in TypeScript. If I don't place the export keyword, TypeScript won't be able to export this class, and here I won't be able to import it to use it here.
So is it by convention? I'm just wondering, is there going to be a problem because the name of the file does not match the name of the class?
No, in TypeScript we don't have, and I
Okay, as
intentionally,
long as the import
yeah.
lists the name properly, then you're fine. Okay,
So
awesome.
yeah,
Thank you.
so yeah, I intentionally, because down the course I'll change it and follow this convention that we have here. Okay, and to implement our interface as a shortcut in Visual Studio Code, all I need to do is go ahead and uh, click Control Enter here, and okay, I don't know what happened. Okay, something wrong with my machine. Okay, so I know. To implement the interface here, all I need to do is go in the class name and click and type control dot, and here it says implement interface iEmployee. So here you can see that get name is now implemented, and now you can get the idea that as TypeScript supports interfaces, so we can create contracts for our classes to work with. We can like do whatever we can do with C# and Java in an object-oriented manner. Okay. Now, the other way we use TypeScript is to declare models. And by models, I mean whenever we work with our API endpoints, we use DTOs, data transfer objects. So we can use strongly typed data to integrate with our APIs. So do anybody have questions regarding what models are or DTOs are? I'll be happy to explain further.
When you say model, you're talking about a model that's going to probably for practical description is it's going to mimic more or less the data that we're getting from other places.
Yeah, so the data that our REST APIs will be sending us over, and usually we call it data transfer objects. So we call them objects, and then the same objects will create in TypeScript, and then we'll take over and start working in a strongly typed manner. So the JSON data that we
I have
will
a,
get, yeah,
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
I have a question like for the constructor and get name, you don't have any access specifiers. Why? Can it be public or private or?
So here it can be public, but I'll want to emphasize one thing when working with uh, uh, Angular, and see, we have to understand Angular is a front-end application, right? At
Mm-hmm.
most, any front-end application should do is fetch data from your API, display it for our user, and
Mm-hmm.
and get the data from our API and throw it and send it to our API. Even though Angular presents lots of functionality and lots of features, uh, I'll my route is that, and I have seen over while building enterprise level application, we need to keep our application as simple as possible. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but how is that related to this? I'm not sure.
No, what I'm saying is that, yeah, like we can add private constructors here, right? So now we go ahead and create private constructor here. And then the only reason I want to create private constructor in this case, where I'm working with this is, I want to add some kind of encapsulation or some kind of, say, immutable objects, right? That's what the basic purpose of what a private constructor would be, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what that will mean is that I will be building more and more uh, complex objects in Angular, right? The essential goal when we
Okay.
go in this route, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
But
So
when you don't specify public private, is it a public constructor by default?
yeah, it's a public constructor by default. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And is there a like in typical like in Java we have two more access specifiers, package private and protected. Do you have similar to those here, or it's only public and private?
So there are other access modifiers, and TypeScript is an evolving language. We are currently in the fourth version. So if you want to learn more on TypeScript and go deep, I will share a link with you. That is the official site of
Okay.
TypeScript, which is the TypeScript handbook. You can go more deep, and TypeScript is open source, so you can always go in GitHub and look into the main source code of TypeScript as well. Like if you want to really dig
Okay.
deep into TypeScript, you can always do that. Yeah.
That link is actually in the meeting. The
Okay.
meeting invite has that in it.
Yeah. Okay, so where I was in implementing interfaces. Okay, so yeah, the other way where we can use interfaces is we can use it as model. And most of the time when we work with DTOs, we will create strongly typed models to work with our DTOs. So here I have a basic employee model here. I defined what the first name, last name, age, and is manager types. Properties with their respective types. Okay, so So since okay. Okay, so to declare a model and to initiate a model in our class in TypeScript class, what we can do is uh, we can say that our model type is of array and then initiate an empty array here. What's going wrong with this? Just give me 1 second.
It's hard to code with one person watching over your shoulder. I can only imagine what it would be like with 10.
Yeah, true. Okay,
Hey,
so
Salim,
yep.
I noticed that you are not saving it, or are you
No, no,
pressing Control S, or it is okay?
okay.
You
So
are
let me show you. Yeah, so if it's not saved, you will see a dot here, a round one,
okay.
and if
Got
it's
it.
saved, that will go away. So like
Okay. Thank you.
I have a habit of typing one word and saving a document like my classes files. Okay, so yeah, so this is how we initialize our models here. So we declare our type and then give and say that it's of our employee type, and then it's an array because we'll be holding a collection here. And say for example, our API sends us 5 or 10 employees. We'll store it as an array, and then for here we declare it as an empty array. Okay, so supports type properties, methods, and class TypeScript interfaces. Yeah, so I believe we have shared the link where we can go and learn more about the TypeScript language. And now coming to Angular components. So TypeScript classes can be converted into a component by using the component decorator. So this is a simple TypeScript class. To change it into a decorator, all to a component, all I need to do is add the component decorator here. Now component decorator, I believe in Java, we have the attribute properties that we can put it in class and function, because in C# we have something similar. So we can think of components as attributes. And here I'm adding a component to my class, and this is how Angular will know that this is a component that it needs to work with. In TypeScript, decorators are simple functions, so that's why I need to give the brackets here. And components, it expects an object, and to pass object in TypeScript, we need to give the curly braces. And essentially component, to work with component, we will need 3 properties to pass it. One is a selector. Now selector name, let me just copy it. It's faster to do. Selector is how Angular will know and add it as a tag in our application. The next thing it needs is the template URL. So where to find our HTML and where to find the CSS associated with our component. Okay, so now you may see that we don't have these 2 files. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead inside my home folder and just manually create both of them. Okay. And also, since now this is no longer a simple CSS class, I'll just rename it into a component. Okay. So now this class, our home class, is now a TypeScript component. And in order for Angular to get access to this component class, we need to export our class that we do using the export keyword. Okay. So now what we can do is, you can see that currently app.component is what's behaving as our bootstrap component. That means whenever we run our application, it goes to our app.component file. Now to change our, first of all, to tell our Angular, uh, first of all, to so that Angular could know that we have if a component which is name is home.component, we have to go into the declaration of our Angular module and say that register my home component. First need, I'll just change the name to component here. And then in app.module. Yeah. So now home component is now registered to our Angular module. It's been declared here. And I'll change the bootstrap file to home component so that now Angular goes ahead and fires up and lands in the home component page. So just to show you that this is the page. Okay. Okay, so I've made a change in my Angular module, so I need to do npm run start again. So in the meantime, do we have any questions for like the way we converted our class into a component, or about the decorator? We added this to classes and
Yes.
registered our yeah. Go
Can
ahead.
we have just like at the right component is a decorator? Can we have custom decorator which performs specific task?
So we 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 can actually, you can build your own decorators. You can go ahead and build your own decorators, but I don't see any reason why we may need it. See, Angular is open source. Okay, you can do anything. You can download Angular, go into the framework and do anything you want. It's everything is open source. You can change everything, because see,
Got it.
most of the time the building blocks that you will work with is modules. So Angular has given you modules. You will work with components. It has given us component decorator. So decorator is a TypeScript feature that Angular utilizes. You will build pipes.
Okay.
We have decorator for pipe, but we can do it. Yeah, essentially, yes, we can do it. We can
Okay.
go ahead and change anything we want.
Okay.
Okay.
I also noticed that uh, we are not putting any documentation. Is there way to put the documentation on the code? What things doing? Like we created a component, so we need to give some information. Okay, home component is about this thing.
Mm, I didn't get you.
Documentation basically.
So what documentation?
So
So
his
we
question
have
was,
Java doc, right?
is there a place for documenting?
Hmm.
Yes, Salim, the selector
Commenting
you
your
use,
code. Salim.
The selector you use here is app home, which is a app
Yeah,
root you need to.
we
And
need to change it to app home. Yeah. No, I'm thinking about the documentation questions. So by Java doc, what do we actually do? Because you
Just
see in
commenting your code, Salim. That's what the question is
yeah,
about commenting code.
is it like open API documentation, open documentation that we use Swagger or Swashbuckle? We put comments and then uh,
Comments within the code, I guess that's good.
yeah, we can put comments in the code, but I'm not sure if we have any tools, but that will translate that comments into a document file. But it should be available if you look for packages or tools. Yeah. Okay.
So why did you change that from app root to app home in index HTML?
Yeah. So because we have now configured our app home as the bootstrap, the home component as bootstrap. Now HTML file, we need to say that, okay, go ahead and use app home. This decorate,
So
this
now
decorator. Yeah. Now it
so it
will go
doesn't
ahead and render the app home, the content inside app home. Yeah.
so it doesn't render the app component at all. The not the home one, the old one.
Yeah. It will not render the app component at all, but we can do it from here.
Oh, import. Okay.
Yeah, we can do it from here. I'll just forgot the name here. App root. Yeah. So app. Here you see now app root is displayed inside our app home component. This is something we call nested components, and we'll cover nested components as well.
What is that symbol on the IDE U and M? And you said if there is a dot, it means it's not saved, right? Why is it showing U and M
U is
on the IDE on the left?
yeah, M is for modified. The M is for actually these are plugins that by default it doesn't come. I added some plugins here because Visual Studio Code everything works in plugin base. Here M means modified. Anytime I change something, it will show that M is modified. And U, I think it should be untouched or something like that. So these are third-party plugins. There are lots of plugins available for Visual Studio. These are not IDE specific features, I believe. And when you install, some of the plugins come pre-installed in Visual Studio. So you may find that here I have this icons here. So these are also plugins.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Salim,
Okay.
this
So
is Kiran. Salim, this is Kiran. So I have a question so now our boot component is a home component, and we are displaying the home component inside index.html in the app
yes.
home. So how the second one, like app component, is also invoking uh, as part of the.
No, app component is no longer being invoked. It is registered with Angular module now. So
Mhm.
Angular knows that whenever we need app component, if we go ahead and use it, so if we go ahead and use it like this, so I am inside home component now. I go ahead inside home component and use app component selector.
Yeah.
Now it's being invoked and it's being rendered in our DOM.
Yeah, how it is being because we registered home component as a boot component, right?
Okay, okay. So what bootstrap means is that component which will work as the entry component for us. So here inside body app.home component is what which will act as the bootstrap component. So Angular modules needs at least one module home component. Means to bootstrap our application. So you can imagine a tree view and where home component is the root and all the other components will start working inside our home component.
Was it possible to take the app root and put it in the other place where it said at home, app home, right below it? Would that also have worked, or it won't work?
No, that's what I did. I have nested the app root now inside our home component, uh,
Yeah,
home
it's in the
component.
HTML. This is an HTML, but if you take the same thing, go to the other file and put it there, would it work, or that's not the right syntax? You
No,
know where you
so
had app.
yeah, so what happens in Angular is that this selector and this name of the selector, it enables us to create a custom HTML tag. So that's what it is. It's a custom HTML tag. And this looking at this tag is what Angular knows that I need to render the contents of app component inside this. It won't work. We cannot put this uh, a DOM element attribute inside our CSS class or somewhere else.
Okay.
What if we put that in index HTML? Both app home and app root. Will it work?
So,
I tried that and it did not work. I think it expects one
yeah,
root.
yeah. So
Mm.
as a bootstrap, it will expect one, but again, we can go ahead and customize it further. We can change it, but by default, when we work with startup templates and all, it expects us to work with one bootstrap like root component. I won't say we cannot do it because we can dig deep and we can change the like the configuration where we ask Angular to allow us to work with multiple root components. But that doing that will be going very deep inside Angular's framework. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that means all other components we need to put inside the.
Yes. So I believe
main-
yesterday somebody asked me and I said that we can do it. We can do it, but if I say we cannot do it, that will be a wrong answer. We can do it. We can customize Angular to as our need as much as we want. But that means that we will be moving away from the basic startup template and all the configuration that we have. We need to go deep inside and do uh, too much of customization here.
Hey Salim, quick question here.
Yeah.
I know we installed a Bootstrap plugin today, so that
Mhm.
Bootstrap is different than we are talking here. Am I right?
Oh yeah, that is a third party. So just yeah,
It's it's
Bootstrap.
a JavaScript API uh,
Bootstrap
showing
is a
website on
third
all platforms.
party. Yeah.
Yeah,
So just a quick
just
question:
want to see.
what you use to integrate CSS and like JavaScript for your application? Any third party
So we
plugins you
use
use?
JS. No, we don't use that. Means we have plain JSP, CSS. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So so there are many templates and third party CSS. Uh, one of the famous one is this admin ALT. So so these are custom, like we want to build our own dashboards and all. So we need to integrate sometime this into our Angular application. That is what we did when we installed npm install bootstrap. And here this
Okay.
is a property name that Angular
Starting.
set. Yeah, to say
Okay.
that home component is the root component here.
Okay. Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, so now you can see that our bootstrap component is changed so that now our home component is what actually being rendered. Okay, and so okay, so I got lost, man. Bootstrapping our home component, yep, and okay. So binding data with our component. So okay, one more trick I want to share with you guys is that okay, so here we are using okay, now we are using a third party CSS. So I'll just quickly add a button here, and you can see, so this is a button. So what happens when we work with third party classes and libraries, we may sometimes need to change their CSS. And what will happen is that, say here I have this button which has a CSS of PTN primary. Now this class comes from the bootstrap that we added and which is inside our node module. So if you want to customize that third party CSS, and if we like go ahead and do it inside this and we find the particular CSS file and we want to change it here, sometimes like those are uglified and sometimes they are not. But even if we went ahead and change it here, what will happen is that when we deploy or next time we run npm install or we update our packages, those changes will be lost and will be replaced by the default CSS. So in order to work with that, what we can do is we go to our style.css, put our button primary here that I copied from my this developer debugger here, and then I'll just quickly change because these are the things that may cause you pain when developing with Angular. And we have to go ahead and give it the not important. What not important does is that it tells to override the, the base CSS or the base CSS properties. So now the basic CSS of that third party bootstrap is been overridden by us, and this will be available globally throughout our application. Okay, so
Yeah, I just wanted to add one comment there. We need to, it's very interesting though. Most of the times we may not rely on third party because a packed style sheets are installed in the node modules folder, and then we directly use them. Just wanted to add a comment there. That's how we used in USDA so far, but that's just a comment. It's not a question or clarification. Feel free to go ahead with your meeting.
yeah, sure. Okay. Okay, so now coming to data binding with our components. So now since we have customized our application, now we can go ahead and bind our application. So what I'll do is okay. So here what I'm doing is I'm hard coding my data for my employee array here, and I made it public so it's accessible by my HTML file, and in my HTML okay, so in my HTML what I have done is here I have a directive, ng if directive, which says that if employees has data like employees.length, because it's an array, go ahead and display the below content here. And now this is an array employees, and I have, for now I have 3 records. So here I'm using the ng4 directive, and I'm saying that for like let employee for employees, this is a kind of a for loop where I'm defining that for all employee, go ahead and render employee dot first name, employee dot last name, employee dot age, and employee dot is manager. Now currently I'm doing it hard coded, but later on we'll create services and then we'll access this data from service. So you can see now my table is being rendered into my component table. And here you can see that first, last, age, and is manager is now displaying the data. Okay, so do you have any questions so far for this?
Yeah, Salim, so how did that style come about? The style of the whole table, alternate rows are gray and white and so on. Is that
Yeah,
something you
so
have defined?
we included the bootstrap classes, and all of these are bootstrap classes here.
Can you show us where that links in? Because mine also isn't showing up properly. I think I missed that part of it.
Okay, so what we did was we installed bootstrap CSS, and that added, can you check in your package.json whether you have this package included? So if you have properly installed Bootstrap, your package.json should be able to show that the Bootstrap and its version number here.
Can you show us like Angular.json with bootstrap entries?
Yeah, and inside Angular.json, inside the styles array
Yes. Mhm.
here.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Jacob, you are mute if you are talking.
No, I'm not talking. I'm trying to figure it out. I have just. I'll figure it out.
Okay. Okay, so what we did was we created a TypeScript class and converted into uh, a component manually, but we can also use the Angular CLI and generate components. So to do that is we need to use, we need to type in the command ng generate component, and then we can go ahead and type our component name. So here I will create a component by employee detail. So if I go ahead and type in plainly this command, what it will do is it will go ahead and create a folder here, employee detail.
Yeah, one I was missing in it. If it's going to mess up your existing code,
No,
name of the.
yeah, I
Okay.
just noticed I mistyped it.
Okay, no worries.
So ng generate component and the component name will create a folder here, and then it will create an HTML file by the same name following the same convention that we followed, and then a CSS file, and then a TypeScript file. And if you look at this TypeScript file, it's very similar to what we created. And I'll just quickly delete this and I'll show you some of other configurations of this same command. Now, if I go ahead and put home and forward slash, what this will do is this will go ahead and create the same component, inside the home folder now, which we already have an existing home folder. So it should go ahead and create it inside a home folder now. Yeah, so you can see that it's now inside the home folder. And there is another shortcut for working with Angular CLI generate command, that is we can just type in ng g c. G is shorthand for generate and C is for component. And then if I go ahead and say flat, it will not create a subfolder now, and it will go ahead and create the files in this manner. So the CLI commands comes very handy to quickly create components, modules, and all. Okay, and now coming
Hey, Salim.
to, yep.
Salim, good question here. I see the naming convention. Is that we say employee details as a camel case, or just putting employee detail as a single word without, means all lowercase is the convention here?
The convention is the file names are all in lowercase.
Okay. I see the node
And
underscore modules. So we use underscore or no? The file names I'm talking about.
No, we don't use underscore in while we name our TypeScript classes and files.
Okay, got it.
So we almost all the time
sorry,
Uh-huh.
Deepak, we may have our own conventions, but this is only a class. This is not no way like is the official standard.
Okay.
If you look at the class name, it is different than the file name. So there you can have your camel case if you want.
Okay, so we use Angular CLI to scaffold Angular components now. Okay, and so Angular components are something called as the life cycles. So I'm not sure about Java, but this is like pretty standard in almost all frameworks where we have some kind of life cycle hooks, methods, or events. When an application start or a page start, we have the on start events, and when an page ends, we have something called the on page end events. This is what I'm bringing from the .NET world. And similarly, we have a concept with components, which are the component lifecycle hooks. So what Angular does is that Angular have quite a few of them. So one of the most important one that which will work very like almost 100% of the time with components whenever we are working with services and all, that is the ng on init lifecycle hook. And Angular provides us this lifecycle hooks in the form of interfaces. So we have seen interfaces, how it works. In the similar manner, if we want to implement the lifecycle hooks, what we can do is we can go ahead and use the implement keyword. And now I want to use the on init lifecycle hook. So this will create the on init method. And similarly, I can implement the on changes. On changes is the event which occurs whenever there is some change in our DOM. and then we have on destroy. And on destroy is the life cycle hook which gets fired whenever we leave our component. And there are other life cycle hooks as well. And I think we have a link which you can follow. This is from Angular IO, where you can read about all of the life cycle hooks. Here I'll show you how the on init works, on change work, and on destroy works in the course of the course. So do anybody have questions like what lifecycle hooks are, or like you are not aware of the concept of lifecycle hooks, like events?
Can you explain in detail what each of those stages in the life cycle mean, when it occurs, and what is going on?
Yeah, sure. So I'll go to my home component here, and I'll implement the on init here. So for now, what I'll do is I'll just console log it.
I would never type that, not even in jest.
Is it possible to also debug it and just show that it comes over here? Is that possible?
Uh, I didn't get you, Samir. What you're
Yeah,
asking?
so when you said ng init on init or something like that, and then there is a statement there that prints, is it possible to debug as the page is loading and page is getting executed? We step through and see, okay, this is the point when ng init is called, and this is the point when it, writes something to the console.
Yes, Samir, we have, and
Okay.
I was coming to that. So
Okay.
now you can
Sounds
see that the basic ng-init method works here, and you can see I'm not calling it from anywhere. Like I'm not invoking it from the constructor. I'm not invoking it from anywhere. So whenever our components runs, the ng on init method is fired by our Angular framework, and this will go ahead and log into. So since we are console logging it, this is going and logging it in our console. So just to show you how ng init works, I'll just create a simple service here, and I'll name it app.service.ts. Now we'll go deep into services here. Now this is just to show you the lifecycle hook. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a service, and you can see the employee array that I created there. I have brought it here in my app services, and I have a method that is get employees, which is returning the type iEmployee of array, and it's simply returning this uh, employee array back to the caller. And in my home component, so to quickly work with my service, I'll just inject it. and I'll call my ng on init from here. So this dot app service dot get employees, and I'll assign the value to my employees array. So, and I'll delete everything. So now I have an empty employees property here, which I'm assigning from the service method here. And my app service has that array. And through this method, it's returning that. So we are again not invoking our on ng init from anywhere. So we are expecting it to behave in such a manner that whenever our home component is called, it will go ahead and invoke this method, and our employees property will get assigned, and our HTML should be able to render the properties inside our employees array. So if we go ahead to our front end, here you can see that the table is being binded. Now coming to debugging an application in Angular, what we do is in our developers tool, we go to sources, and then if I click here, Control P, and then search for my component here. Now this will only work in developer mode. It won't work in production mode. So in production mode, no one will be able to see your code in this way and debug it. Okay, so now if I do a refresh here, so you can see that my ng on init is fired when my app component is getting initiated. And this is how I can step into the function. And here you can see now I am in app service class, and my employees data is being populated here. And so this is how we can debug our code inside our Chrome developer tool. Okay, so do we have any questions?
What key did you? Yeah, what key did you press to go line by line while debugging?
Oh, I didn't press any key. I was using this. So this one is to step into next function. You can do it by, I usually type this code. So I think here it says
Can we go to
F11, we can type
Oh.
as well. Yeah.
Oh, that okay.
Or Control Plus,
Yeah.
apparently.
Yeah. So this is to step into, and this is to step over.
So Salim, just so that all of us know about the life cycle well. So first we have the init, right? Init gets called at what stage when the component has been initialized, or what is the scenario when the init is called?
Okay. So init is called whenever a component is initialized. So whenever a component is called and the class is being rendered in our DOM, ng on init lifecycle hook is called. And why we use ng lifecycle hook is that most of the time what we need to do is we need to call an third-party API, and then we need to display our data in our HTML file uh, before our actual DOMs are completely rendered. So we need our data to be available for us before our HTML DOMs are even rendered.
Okay.
Then, yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So then we have something known as the ng on change. So ng on change, what is that does whenever anything changes in the DOM, ng on change event is fired, and we can hook into it and write any of our logic which we want to write in. Then there is another which is ng after content initialize. This is when all of our content are rendered into our application, so that all of the views are displayed. So oh, sorry, this was what ng after view init, and we use it oftenly, ng after view init lifecycle hook. And then we have something finally, the ng on destroy. So an ng on destroy is whenever we want to clean up, like we have some, so in this case, if I want to set my employees to null, I can go ahead and do it here. So I can go ahead and say that, okay, the employees array will no longer hold any data here. So those are lifecycle hooks in Angular components.
Thank you.
And okay, so that's it, Samir, for components and basic introduction to TypeScript.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? We can ask. We have some time today. So, Salim, one thing that we can talk about is, let's say you take any typical application, let's say a login feature. So you can just talk about it. You don't have to show, because I'm not sure if you have the code here. So if I have to build a login feature, a login page, can you explain at a high level, where would I put my code? So there'll be a login.component.css, login.component.html, and so on. And then each of those files, what would I put? Where will my REST API call be? And can you just explain that? Just so that we put whatever we have learned in a real world problem type of a context. Is that okay with everyone? Do we want to spend time understanding that?
Or is that something that we're specifically going to be going over like tomorrow or the next day?
Salim,
Yeah, we will be going over how we interact with our APIs and services. And then we will also go over how we handle security and access tokens for logins and all.
okay, excellent. Very good then. Anyone
So
has
any
any other
questions?
questions?
Any
Yeah,
questions
I
regarding
do have one question. Yeah. So
Yeah, go
the
ahead.
life cycle hooks you explained, those are only applicable to Angular components, right? Those are not HTML, DOM life cycle events, or is there a relationship between those two?
Uh, there is there is relationship in two ways. So first of all, they are officially known as the component life cycles. So in many terms, we also call it component life cycle, because they mostly deals with the how the components life cycle works. But ng on changes, it deals with DOM changes. Whenever our DOM changes, ng on change event is lifecycle hook is fired. And then we have ng after view init. That is when our all the views, component views, child views, and everything are rendered completely. Then this ng after view init is fired. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So Salim, so on init, you mean to say that the app home is loading into the page? You mean to?
Yes.
So if
It's
the app,
about to it's about to go and load into the page.
yeah, and if the so if on change, if the app home is replaced with 10 HTML components, right, like text area or 10 different buttons and all. So on change
Mhm.
event, if any of the button changes, the on change event will be triggered. Is that correct?
Uh, any of the DOM elements is re-rendered. if you know, in single page application, DOM elements are re-rendered, right? So
Yeah,
that
that's
at that at that time on change event lifecycle hook is fired.
and the DOM element should be with the app home only, right? Not with any other.
No, only any DOM element changes inside home component HTML will cause home component TS on change lifecycle hook to fire.
Yeah, the home component obviously replaces only the app home selector, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So essentially, any DOM element changes that happens in employee detail component will not trigger on change event in home component TS.
Okay. Yeah, got you.
Okay.
I have one question. Say, for example, this home component is used in multiple places, like on while you're rendering different parent components. So, is ng on it would be on init would be called multiple times, or for the whole application it would be only called once?
Once. So if you have child component and any DOM element changes there and you want to trigger it there, so the on change event of the child component will be fired, and you have to handle the changes there.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Now in tomorrow's lecture, we'll go ahead and build an child component. So if I can quickly show you what I'll cover. So tomorrow I'll go ahead and create a nested component, and then we'll work with our nested component, integrate with that. Then we'll create a custom Angular pipes, and then what we will do is we'll go ahead and create a custom Angular module, and then we'll create a module which will held our components and pipes. That's what we'll cover tomorrow. Okay, do we have any more questions from anybody?
Will be this same link? I'm assuming the answer is yes. The same link every day for logging in to the meeting.
That is correct. It's the same link.
That's what I thought. Great, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so if we don't have any other questions, we'll give back 10 minutes of your time. Thank you all for your participation. And we will see you tomorrow again, same time. Have a good day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.